Hello, my name is Todd Bennett, and I want to talk about a specific question that people address to me, and that is, did Jesus abolish the law? Now, that's a common teaching in Christianity, and I think a lot of Christians actually believe that Jesus came to abolish the law. But that's largely in part because they really don't even understand what the law is, and that's one of the first things we have to tackle before we can even answer the question. You see, in Hebrew, the word law is Torah. And Torah means instructions, and it essentially points the way and tells us to walk in that way. They are the righteous instructions of the Creator given to those who are in covenant with Him. And the purpose is that so that we can learn that conduct that is pleasing to Him, so we can be holy as He is holy. In fact, the commandments are our guide in the way of righteousness. And they actually show us the way of blessings and curses so that we can actually walk in blessings and not in curses. And so the Torah has always considered to be a gift, something very valuable, very precious, given by the Creator. And that's very different from many people's perception of the law, something that puts us in bondage. It is not. What does put us in bondage is the various traditions and the man-made laws and rules and regulations that are imposed upon us by different religious systems. Those are onerous. Those do put us in bondage. But the scriptures are very clear that the Torah does not put us in bondage. And in fact, we can obey the commandments. Moses, at the end of the book of Deuteronomy, when the commandments had been given, was very specific to say in Deuteronomy 30:11 through 14, "For this commandment which I command you today is not too mysterious for you." And some translations say, not too difficult for you. "Nor is it far off. It's not in heaven, that you should say, who will ascend into heaven for us and bring it to us, that we may hear it and do it? Nor is it beyond the sea, that you should say, who will go over the sea for us and bring it to us, that we may hear it and do it? But the word is very near you, in your mouth and in your heart, that you may do it." So basically he's saying, it's not too mysterious, it's not too difficult, it's not too far away, it's right here, I just gave it to you, you can do it. Even the New Testament scriptures say, 1 John 5:3, "For this is the love of Elohim, that we keep His commandments, and His commandments are not too burdensome." So here we have it in both the Old Testament and the New Testament saying that commandments are not too difficult, they're not too burdensome. So this flies directly in the face of the teaching that many people have accepted and received, that the law is too difficult, that we can't obey it. All right, so with that foundation, now we can go look and see what the Messiah had to say about it. He said in John 14:15, "If you love me, you keep my commandments." So essentially, our keeping the commandments are our way of expressing the fact that we love Him. It's one thing to say you love Him and just ignore His commandments. You're not expressing love for Him that way. He says, if you love me, you'll keep my commandments. So the commandments are a good thing. It's nothing that you would ever want to be abolished. And Yeshua didn't have a problem with the commandments. He had a problem with the laws and the rules and regulations, the adding to and subtracting to by the Pharisees. And so that's what we read about in the scriptures when we read about Him coming against the religious leaders. It's because of everything they'd added to and taken away from the Torah. In fact, He always taught the Torah and the purity of the Torah. He walked it, He talked it, He lived it. He was our living example of how to obey the commandments. So when He says, "Follow me," He essentially is saying, obey the way I obeyed, and then you'll be living a righteous life. In fact, in one occasion, somebody came to Him and said, how do I inherit eternal life? And Yeshua was very quick to say, keep the commandments. We read about that in Matthew 19:16 through 17. So the commandments point us to the way of life. They are the way of righteousness. And so once Messiah has cleansed us by His atoning blood, we need to get serious about keeping these commandments. And then, of course, He sent His Spirit for us so that we could obey His commandments. In fact, Yeshua answered the question head on in Matthew 5:17 through 20, when He specifically said, "Do not think that I came to destroy the Torah or the prophets. I did not come to destroy, but to fulfill. For surely I say to you, till heaven and earth pass away. One jot or one tittle will by no means pass from the Torah till all is fulfilled. Whoever therefore breaks one of the least of these commandments and teaches men so shall be called least in the kingdom of heaven. But whoever does and teaches them, he shall be called great in the kingdom of heaven. For I say to you that unless your righteousness exceeds the righteousness of the scribes and Pharisees, you will by no means enter the kingdom of heaven. So essentially he's saying he didn't come to destroy, he came to fulfill, and obviously fulfillment does not mean destruction. These are two opposite things. His fulfillment was his living out the Torah and completing the Torah. And we have many prophetic events and the appointed times that he fulfilled through the Passover and the Feast of Unleavened Bread and Shavuot, which many people know as Pentecost. He fulfilled that in many ways. So he fulfilled the prophecies. He showed us how to live it. That's his fulfillment. He in no way came to destroy or abolish. Okay. Now, in fact, what he did come to do was to renew the covenant with Israel, as prophesied by Jeremiah. Israel had broken the covenant. They failed to obey the commandments and live according to the Torah. And so Yeshua was coming to restore that relationship, and it specifically involved the Torah, as we read in Jeremiah 31 through 33. Behold, the days are coming, says Yahuwah, when I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah, not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers in the day that I took them by the hand to lead them out of the land of Egypt, my covenant which they broke, though I was a husband to them, says Yahuwah. But this is the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel after those days, says Yahuwah. I will put my Torah in their minds and write it on their hearts, and I will be their Elohim, and they shall be my people. So essentially he's saying, through the Messiah, he's going to elevate this covenant. Instead of being written on tablets of stone, the Torah would be written on our hearts and our minds. In fact, that's exactly what he did when he sent his Spirit. And when Yeshua promised the Spirit in John 14:23 through 26, he says, if anyone loves me, he will keep my word, and my Father will love him. And we will come to him and make our home with him. He who does not love me does not keep my words, and the word which you hear is not mine, but the Father's who sent me. These things I have spoken to you while being present with you, but the Helper, the set-apart Spirit, whom the Father will send in my name, he will teach you all things and bring to your remembrance all things that I said to you. So here we have Yeshua saying, this is all about us living together, and if you keep my commandments, we'll actually dwell together, and he'll send the Spirit so that we can actually obey those commandments in the purity that he lived them and he taught. In fact, it couldn't be any clearer in the fact that he sent the Spirit on the appointed time known as Shavuot. And again, many know that as Pentecost. But that's also the very same day that Israel received the Ten Commandments, when Yah himself spoke from the cloud out of Mount Sinai. He spoke those words audibly for all of Israel to hear. He did that on Shavuot, and the Spirit was sent on Shavuot. So here we have the Torah being spoken on the same day that the Spirit is given, and it shows the perfection and the unity and the fulfillment that we talked about that Yeshua provided. So he gave us power so that we could obey as he obeyed. Finally, he gives a very stark contrast to those who refuse to obey his Torah. In Matthew 7:21 through 23, he says, not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, shall enter the kingdom of heaven, but he who does the will of my Father in heaven. Many will say to me in that day, Lord, Lord, have we not prophesied in your name, cast out demons in your name, and done many wonders in your name? And then I will declare to you, I never knew you. Depart from me, you who practice lawlessness. And the word here in the Greek is anomia. It means without, nomia, the law, the Torah. In this case, it specifically means the Torah. So he's telling people who practice lawlessness, that are without the Torah, that they can't dwell with him. They're not getting into the kingdom. And he tells them to depart, even though they're calling him Lord. They think they have a relationship with him. Even though they're doing all these supposed mighty works, they don't get into the kingdom because they're not obeying his Torah. So back to the original question, did Jesus abolish the Torah? Well, absolutely not. Yeshua the Messiah, he did not abolish the Torah. He specifically said he did not come to abolish the Torah, and his life and ministry and his resurrection and his fulfillment of the Torah was all about building up the Torah, restoring the covenant people into the Torah of truth. So I hope that helps you with your understanding of that question. And if you have any other issues that you need help with, feel free to get a hold of us at www.shemayisrael.net. You can send us questions. We also have a lot of materials that you may find helpful. So until next time, shalom.